council meeting. I am going to call the meeting to order, and it is 7:55. Thank you. May we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Chavez?
Here.
Councilmember Chavez?
Here.
Councilmember
me?
Vizcarra?
Here.
Councilmember Yu?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mann?
Here.
Mayor Sternquist?
Here. Thank you. We have Pastor Kelly this evening from Community of Christ Church located at 5851 Temple City Boulevard. And we are pleased to have you provide the invocation this evening.
I'm always happy to be here. Let us pray. Our divine Creator, we thank you for this world that you have created for us. We thank you for this beautiful day that you would provide, maybe too hot, but light. It's a beautiful sunset today. We thank you that we're able to live in this community in order that to enjoy its benefits from all who you have to offer us. It is for these reasons that we would come into your presence this evening to ask your blessing upon all gathered here. That we do these things for this community this evening to make it a better community. May this council and their staff have your wisdom to be with them to seek to do those things that would make this even a better community. We know not what the future may bring, but would ask, dear Creator, that in all we do, we may do it for better for the next generation, for those who are to come after us. We might look to that future with hope, anticipation, ignorance, and a positive outlook. That those future generations may look back and say to each other with pride that we know that they did a good job preparing us for this community today. Thank you, and amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Brian, would you lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, no ceremonial items. Public comment? Anyone? Okay. Consent calendar, and I do have a notation to make. Our city clerk would like to make a correction on the dates for consent calendar items 7A-1 and A-2. The dates for the meeting minutes should be 8/2, not 8/3/2022. Peggy, do you need to?
Thank you, Mayor. If you would allow it, I'd like to make that adjustment to the consent calendar items 7A1 and 7A2.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar with the changes noted by our city clerk.
Second.
Okay, any objections? Roll call?
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Vizcarra?
Yes.
Councilmember Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mann?
Yes.
Mayor Sternquist?
Yes. Okay, there is no public hearing this evening, no unfinished business. And our new business this evening is discussion of EV charge fee for city-owned electrical vehicle charge stations. The Charge Point EV charge stations at Primrose Park currently are free of charge for use by the general public. City Council is requested to consider creation of an EV charge station fee to recoup the direct energy costs for the use of the EV charge stations. And we have Adam here this evening. There you are. And he will be making the presentation. Thank you, Adam.
All right. Thank you so much, Mayor Sternquist and members of the City Council. Tonight we'll be discussing potentially an EV charge fee for our city-owned electrical vehicle charge stations. I think
There you go.
Okay. So just wanted to provide some background information for the City Council before we discuss the actual potential fees for the use of the EV charge station. So currently we have 2 stations at Primrose Park. These are our charge point stations. Each station has 2 chargers, which means a total of 4 cars can be charged at any given moment at the park. We had our first one activated on April 25th, and then we worked through some technical issues with ChargePoint to get our second one activated in the middle of June, so on June 15th. Next. In terms of the hours of operation and when it's available, it is available 7 days a week. The hours are from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., and there is a 4-hour charge limit if there are vehicles in the wait line or in the queue list. We do not offer overnight charging, and we do not currently collect any fees for the use of the EV chargers right now. So July was really our first month of being able to secure a really good picture and look at how much those vehicle charge stations are used. It was our first full month of operation with having all 4 chargers available to the public to use. We've seen pretty high usage of those EV charge stations. Per day, we average about 23 different vehicles or charge sessions over the course of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Many times of the day, in the afternoon and evenings, we will have a wait list, so cars that are waiting to charge. Overall, daily, we average a little over 300 kilowatt per hours of energy used, and over the course of the month of July, just under 9,500 kilowatts of energy. So this, for us, really gave us a baseline in terms of usage and how the community would utilize this new amenity that we have in the city. So what it breaks down into costs for the city is between winter and summer, or summer and winter costs. So Southern California Edison has 2 different rate structures. There's a summer cost rate structure, which is from June through September, and then a winter cost structure, which runs October through May. Based on our July baseline, we anticipate that the cost to the city in terms of the EV energy usage is $3,000 per month for the summer months and about $2,100 per month for the winter costs. So we're looking at a total of, just under $29,000 for the year in terms of direct cost energy usage by the EV chargers. One thing to note is that our electric meter at Primrose Park does meter electricity for the entire park, including the EV charge stations, the lights for the park, and all those other components, the restrooms. What we did was we estimated and pulled out the costs that are specific to the EV charger. So that's what we're looking at in this slide. So what we are bringing to the council for review is what a direct, 100% direct recovery cost would look like if we did start charging for the use of the charge stations at Primrose Park. So the first table you'll see is the summer rate period. So again, that's June through September. And it's a variable rate charge. So this is what's directly charged to the city. We have our Edison rate, which is in that 3rd column. And then what we've done is we've added in the ChargePoint admin fees. So that's a fee that they collect off of our charge to the end user. So we built that into a potential proposed fee for roughly 100% direct cost recovery for the use of the EV station. So on the furthest right column, you'll see what that dollar amount would potentially be. So for the high peak usage in the summer, it can be as high as almost 78 cents per kilowatt. And then on the low end, during the winter, for the off-peak hours, it could be as low as 13 cents per kilowatt. Now, to give a rough idea of what that looks like in terms of hours, the EV charge stations generally distribute about 6.5 kilowatts of energy per hour. So, if you're looking at the highest rate, that's roughly about $5 an hour of usage. At the lowest rate, it would be closer towards 86 cents an hour per usage. So again, it really varies in terms of the time of the day and whether it's peak or non-peak hours in which the EV charge stations would be utilized. The next slide, we have, just as a base comparison, other agencies in the San Gabriel Valley and what they charge. So just as a reference point, locally, right now, I wasn't able to find any other stations that don't charge. It's much more of a common practice that we do have charge for EV stations, and you'll see a breakdown. So some of them are per hour usage, some of them are per kilowatt usage rates, and at the very top is what you would see Temple City's potential fee charge, and that's based on the current summer rates. I didn't list the winter rates, as most of these I took during the month of August, so these would most likely be summer rates for all these other agencies as well if they have variable rates. So some of them are samplings of other municipal agencies. Not all municipal agencies run their own EV charge stations. Some of them are private entities. Others are county facilities like the Arboretum parking lot. So you can see it does vary. There's different cost structures. And then ours, if adopted at the full direct cost recovery rate, would mimic something closer to what you see at the bottom, which would be that South Pasadena City parking lot, which looks like more of a direct cost recovery rate that's charged. Next slide. So again, what we're asking City Council is to consider the options of creating a charge fee for the EV stations at Primrose Park, or potentially any other EV charge stations that are installed by the city. Staff is recommending that the full 100% direct cost recovery rate would be ideal in terms of having that being charged to the end user. And if the council does decide and approve creating a fee structure for the use of the charge stations, we would also recommend that the city council consider a start date for that. So if it coincided with our next council meeting per the resolution, that would give us approximately 3 weeks of notification. Another option could be to give roughly a month or so notice and start in October. And if we did start in October, then we would be starting with our winter rates, if that were determined as the start date for the fees to be charged. But that really concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions the council may have regarding the staff report.
Adam, can I ask you, I don't know much about EV cars, but say if I had a medium size or it used an average amount of electricity, would I be charging twice a week? And what does that equate all those numbers to in a dollar amount? Like, how would that affect my pocketbook? Is it $12 a charge? Is it to complete a charge? Is it $20? How much are we impacting? Are we going from zero to what?
Yeah, it's a depends question, because part of it is there's a lot of variable rates that are charged depending upon peak usage or non-peak usage. But generally what I would say is at the high end, for an hour charge, which is roughly, we've seen our users on average charge for about 2 hours. So if we take that as a baseline, that would turn out to about 13.
Excuse me, Brian. These are quick charges, right? They're not slow charges.
They're a level 2 charger, so it's not.
So it's not quite quick. And
it's not quite quick, but it is a upgraded energy dispenser than a level 1 charge station.
Thank you.
So I would say it's like a medium level of charge capacity. But on average, we have people that are staying roughly 2 hours per charge. And a 2-hour charge translates into 13 kilowatts over that 2-hour period. So basically, you can take that 13 kilowatts and then multiply that by our, if we go back to the proposed fee table,
It's like $10.
City Clerk.
10
So,
bucks.
yeah, so, you know, at the high end, you would be about $10 for a 2-hour charge. And then on the low end, you would be less than $2 per charge if it's, you know, at the non-peak time frame. So it's variable. Now, what that translates into like miles for vehicles, that's very, I've learned more than I thought I would ever learn about EV vehicles. There's different efficiencies of EV vehicles. So if you take a Tesla, which is a little bit more efficient, they can go 100 miles for about 24 kilowatts of power. Mustang Mach-E takes about 33 kilowatts to go 100 miles. So again, it's, you know, it's, in terms of the exercise of seeing like what the direct cost is there's just a lot of variabilities based off of the time of day in which you charge, as well as the type of electric vehicle you do have. But the baseline is, you know, generally it's cheaper, it's still cheaper per mile than gasoline. So that's, if you want to use just as a general baseline, even at the highest rate charge of 77 cents per kilowatt, it would still be cheaper than if you owned a gas vehicle and gassed it up in terms of the amount of mileage that you get out of it. So I think, you know, for us that maybe aren't EV drivers, that would be a good barometer.
Well, that gives me a pretty good idea, because I'm just trying to think in my mind, if we decide to move forward with this, how that's going to affect someone's pocketbook at this time when things are already so high. So it gives me a better idea that it's
Sure.
not, we're not charging them $50 for a charge, but $10 obviously to go 100 miles is a heck of a lot better than what I'm paying in gas. So it
Sure.
just helps me put it in perspective.
And
So-
that would only be during peak hour usage as well. So, you know, if you wanted to take advantage of a, let's say, a non-peak time, it could be, you know, really affordable, but still cover fully the city's direct energy costs. So I think it's potentially a win-win situation.
Is there anything built into ChargePoint? For example, if I come and charge my EV car and it takes 2 hours, but I left and I went shopping down the street and visited with my friends and neighbors and I left my vehicle there, is there any way that they can be charged, you know, some ticket fee, almost like if you have expired, if you park on in a meter and you know, don't come back to put your money in, then you get a ticket. Or have we had a problem with people leaving their cars there and so that somebody else can't come? And is there something built into the program?
So generally, the feedback that we get is directly through the ChargePoint cloud. So if people have complaints or issues, they can actually, within their app or on the charge station, note that. So in reviewing the different comments that were made, most of the time we haven't seen too many issues of people like leaving their vehicle once it stopped charging. The system itself will stop charging after you've hit your max, and then you're constantly given notices on your phone that, you know, your charge time has been up. So at least right now, we haven't seen that being problematic. But ChargePoint does have the ability where you could, let's say, dock somebody that doesn't move their vehicle after their charge has been finished. So again, kind of a you know, a way to keep people accountable for moving their vehicle once it's finished their charge time, to allow other people to utilize it. Per most part, with it being at a park, I think it's a little bit less of an issue as opposed to if you had it at, let's say, a mall or somewhere else that might be larger, where your time may not be as, or where you may be pulled further away from the vehicle. With it being at a park and with it being a neighborhood park, I don't think that's as much of an issue, but I'm sure it does happen on occasion, especially if you're utilizing it to go shopping on the Los Tunas corridor as opposed to park usage. But that's something we could build in if that's the desire, or we can discuss that as well.
Yeah, well, just when I was looking at doing my own research on EVs and things, it seemed that there were different agencies, municipalities that did have, say it was a $3, $2.75 fee if someone left their car per hour, if they left their vehicle 15 minutes longer than it needed. I mean, they gave them some leeway, obviously, but
There's usually a grace period.
it seemed like a productive way to get people in and out of using EV stations if they knew, especially because we're so limited in our city. But I mean, that's another discussion. But anyway, thank you. Is there, and we're gonna, let me see. Let's start with Tom. Well, he's not there. There you are.
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, William?
Oh, yes, thank you, Mayor. I was wondering how, so Director Matsumoto, how would if we went forward with implementing these rates, how is that reflected on the customer end on the app? Are the rates displayed when they schedule their time of charge and it would say, hey, this is the current rate for the time period that you've reserved?
Correct. The actual interface of utilizing ChargePoint is, I believe, a pretty user-friendly experience. So you would be able to have a map populate of different EV locations, and when you click on the dot for Temple City and Primrose Park, it would show you what the current rates are. So with our rates being variable, it would list the different time frames of when we charge what. And then when we do make that change, let's say if we start in September, when the rates change in October and we make that change, it would be instantaneous on that app when they do that. It would also show up on the actual interface of the physical charge station. So when you go on site, it would display on the screen. So nobody would ever be, let's say, caught being charged without really being aware of it. You would know ahead of time and you would have to make a decision whether you wanted to accept that charge and charge, or if you'd say, oh, hey, I thought it was free before, now it's not, and I can charge at home instead. It would, you would be able to notify that through either the app or the physical location.
Okay, that's good to know. My second question is, I think you mentioned when someone reserves it on ChargePoint app, they could reserve it for a period of 4 hours. Is that correct?
So the way the system is set up is if there's an open and available port, you can just go in and plug in and start charging. Once somebody has taken up a port, then a wait list would be created. So if somebody came to the park or was in the vicinity and they wanted to be next in line, they would choose to be on the wait list for that charge station. So then the person that was first in line, they would have up to 4 hours of charge, or if they leave earlier, then the system notifies that person that's on the wait list that it's now available. You have a 10-minute window to come and charge your vehicle. If you're not there within 10 minutes, then you get bumped, and then the next person in the wait line gets notified.
Oh, interesting. So the app in and of itself is, I guess, pretty efficient at trying to maximize or optimize the number of users that can use a port at any time.
And there's flexibility built in where we could determine that. So we could decrease grace periods, we can increase grace periods. As Mayor Sternquist had mentioned, we can institute penalties if you overstay once you've been disconnected. There's a lot of flexibility that the owner-operator has in terms of determining how the charge stations would be utilized. It does give us a lot of ability to really determine what the best approach would be. Currently, right now, we have about 10-minute grace periods. So 10 minutes after you finish the charge to move your vehicle. We don't have any penalties right now. And then roughly 10 minutes to go and charge if you're on the wait list. And again, I think part of that, we haven't seen really very many complaints about people just using it as like a parking spot and they just forget. And I think part of the reason why, if I could surmise, is just, it's in a park. It's a small park setting location. You're not going to be too far away from the chargers, so we do seem to have some pretty quick turnover time. And as you can see in a 24-hour period, we run about 23 different individual users per day, so you do see a lot of turnover use.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Councilmember Yu?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple follow-up questions. First of all, I guess Temple City our electric charges varies by time of day, just like residential. Do you happen to know the hours?
Correct. So let me pull it up. In terms of our time frames, if City Clerk Kuo could pull it up, we can take a look at what the breakdown is in terms of time. So the highest rates would be a Monday through Friday between 4 to 9 p.m. So it is similar to residential, Edison bills, where that's considered peak or on-peak hours.
What you're showing is peak. Yeah.
Right. Mid-peak would be Saturday and Sunday from 4 to 9, and then off-peak is that 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., or then that last portion of time that we operate from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then the winter rates, you'll see the breakdown as well.
Just like residential.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Second question: Would a person looking at an app know how much time the guy at the who's charging, how much time he has, or is he staying over past this time?
So
would a second person know?
they would know that at a minimum, after 4 hours, they would be kicked off. But it's up to the person that's charging to determine how long. So if they plug in starting, let's say, at 12 noon, then their charge or their use wouldn't end until 4 o'clock when they're forced off. Now, if they leave ahead of time, then as soon as they disconnect, then the next person that's waiting.
Right. But let's say the guy supposed to leave at 4 and his car's still there at 5 o'clock. Would somebody there know that he's been overstaying for
They
an
would,
hour?
yes.
The app will show that.
It will. It'll both notify the person that should be leaving, and it also notifies the first person in the wait list that the time has been up. So that's what Mayor Sternquist had mentioned about, if we do have that situation where somebody is overstaying their time limit, that potentially a penalty fee could be instituted.
Okay.
Let's say every 15 minutes over your charge $1 or $5 or whatever set amount that's.
Last question:
Seemed
the
appropriate.
parking lot's open all night, right?
It is not. So it has the same hours as our regular public lot. So I believe that's 6 a.m. to 2 a.m.
We actually lock it up.
It's not a lockable parking lot.
Right. That's why I'm re-asking. So it's open,
It
even though
is.
you're not supposed to park there, but there's nothing to prevent you from driving in.
There's nothing to prevent you from doing that, but you cannot charge past the times that we set. So you could be there at, let's say, 2 a.m., but even if you tried plugging in, you wouldn't be able to do that unless we opened up that access. So we control when it's usable and when it's not, that at least for the EV charge station.
Okay. I kind of wonder about that, because the EV equipment is there to be used, and certainly not allowing it to be used potentially is an issue. But I guess we'll discuss it. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Viscara?
We have an electric car, a Bolt. So I just texted my wife, it's her car, and I said, do they tell you how much it's going to cost before you start charging? And she said, no. You find out after the fact. I don't know if they're all that way, but that's been her experience so far. The other thing, as far as people overstaying, we've actually never had that problem. And we've used it all the way from here to go see the Dodgers in Arizona, coming back. I don't know how many times we stopped to charge the car. And
we really didn't have a big problem finding charging stations, and if we had to wait, it was for a very short period of time. That's been our experience so far. And the other thing was, I did notice that, I'm glad we have ChargePoint, because all the others are sketchy. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Sure.
So, in that regard, I think we're doing the right thing.
My understanding of how it's supposed to work is that you're notified of what the kilowatt rate is, but you don't know what your final total is until you've,
Right.
sat there, expended the energy, and then it kind of rings you up as what the total would be for the amount of time that you're there. But that might be something we have to take a look at more closely
But
to
you're
make sure
you're
that it's
definitely
aware.
given the charge at the end.
Definitely, sure.
Yeah. That's all I had.
Okay. I'd like to open public comment. Any comment on this topic? Okay, close public comment. Any final comments from any council members?
I have some comments, Mayor.
Vincent? Councilmember you?
I thought that Tom wants to speak.
Tom, did you have any?
Sure, I agree with the staff report. I think,
Can't hear you,
it's
Tom.
reasonable. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Perhaps,
A little
can
bit.
you turn it up a
A
little
little
bit?
bit? All right. Modern technology, huh?
Yes, that's
Yes,
good.
yes, that
Okay.
we can.
Okay, so I agree with staff's report. I think it's not unreasonable to recover our costs. I would suggest that we give an ample time period, probably coordinated with the October 1st date when the rates change. And then also, I would like to see us work in some type of penalty for overstaying your time, because after all, they are limited. And it's only going to be useful for people to use it as long as people don't take advantage of it. Although it doesn't appear to be a problem, I guess we could hold off on that until a later date to see if it is a problem. But if it does become one, then I think that's a good way to enforce it, is to charge them. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Councilmember you?
Thank you, Mayor. I think as public policy, we always need to look at the question of fairness. It's public infrastructure that we spend tax dollar building. And I think we should definitely make sure that the distribution is fair and even. So folks that don't have to pay for the infrastructure already, if they would come here to charge. The infrastructure put in, instead of, like most people have an electric car, they have to go build in a special charger if they want to go level 2. At home, they have the space, so they don't have to, or they already don't have to pay for this infrastructure. So, however, folks that I don't know how many people know that when people go to a gas pump, they pay gas taxes. Gas tax is one of the primary source of income for cities and counties to repair and pave roads. So we have electric cars out there not paying a dime of a penny of gas tax. They still use our roads. They still take advantage of traffic signal, all the other things. I think it's only fair that the city does not subsidize electric car owners with electric bills. So they're already taking advantage. They don't have to pay for the infrastructure. They got, at least some an advantage in driving on carpool lanes. I really think that the city, it should be our public policy to recover 100% of the charges. And I will be in favor of assessing some penalty after a certain grace period.
Is that it?
Thank you. Yeah.
I think we should look at the penalty, just maybe since we're gonna go from 0 to some fee, and just do it all from the beginning, instead of looking at that down the road when maybe it does become a problem. I just think it's, when you advertise that we're gonna pay, that our residents or anyone who, the public's gonna pay, that they know that if they extend past whatever time is deemed appropriate, that it's going to be a fee, whatever that fee is.
If I may, I'm wondering, I don't disagree, but I'm wondering the mechanics of that. Is there some way to track it, that William overstayed his time, therefore we're gonna, he gets a $50 ticket. Well, how do we find William?
I think it's in the app, and they have to register with their phone,
Huh?
correct?
Correct. So
Some way they charge
it would be built into the ChargePoint cloud software. So because you have to have a credit card on file to charge, and if you're not disconnecting, and if we institute the, let's say, overstay penalty, then it would pull directly from that same mechanism that you pay for the use of the EV charge station. So that's all done within the ChargePoint application. And again, we can set those parameters. We can set how long before a penalty gets charged. We can determine the amount or the dollar amount of what that penalty would be as well. So again, we have full range of flexibility to have it a hard 1 minute grace period or something along maybe 10 to 15 minutes. If it's the council's desire, we can always do a quick comparison like we did with the charge rates to see if there's any standard penalty rate structure as well. So you can see maybe what some other owner operators are doing from that standpoint.
That sounds more efficient than our current parking.
It it is. It's real-time penalties and real-time collection.
You better watch it.
Anything else?
Mayor Sternquist,
Yes.
if I could just really quickly, I agree. I think we should consider some penalty, but also a fair grace period. I also agree that October is a good target to give people enough time to, I presume we're going to place notices
Yes, we
ahead of
would.
time to warn people that, hey, it's not going to be free forever. We're implementing these changes. So I hope we have some signage out there
We can
somehow
do-
that allows people to know that this is coming.
We can do physical signage at the location. We can add messages to the station, so it'll pop up
That's cool.
as a message saying that beginning at the date chosen by the council, rates will be instituted. We can follow that up on our city website where we've posted information on the EV charge stations. But I think really the mechanism to really get the word out is doing it through ChargePoint with that messaging system, because those are the direct users. Those are the people that are that are there on a daily basis that would see that. But we could use a variety of methods to get the word out.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't want residents who have been using it to be caught off guard as
Yeah.
all of a sudden October 1st rolls around and they start seeing charges on their
What it-
charge point bill and go, hey,
Yeah,
what
to
happened?
share to share a quick note on that is one of the apps to find a charge station. You'll see a long list of comments, and they're public comments that you can see. One of the comments on ours is, it's July 19th and it's still free. So like, I think within the EV charging community, it's a bonus that it's being offered right now. But I don't think that instituting a charge fee would be a break from the norm of what other EV users are experiencing. So
Okay. No, that's good to know. I don't have an EV, so I don't know. And final comment, I do appreciate you including the sample of other EV charge station rates. I think that at least helped me get a sense of where we are with respect to other municipalities. And I think the best argument is still, hey, this is what we're actually being billed for. And the variable rate is defined by Edison, not us.
correct.
So thanks for clearing that up. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. And Adam, one last question. At the sheriff's station, I know it's 30 cents,
30 and 45.
30 and 45 cents. That's all day long? Those aren't they don't have variable rates throughout the day, do they?
Those are the two rates that are variable, so it just depends on the time of the
Just
day.
those two.
Those would be the two rates. Again, in looking at the comparisons with other agencies, the South Pasadena one looks like it's most similar to a direct cost recovery model, because you do see three rates there,
Right.
which is typical of what Edison would charge. But maybe some of them might be tied into solar energy, or may have some other way of manufacturing that energy usage. But for us, it would be through Southern California Edison.
So it seems pretty much in alignment with what they would be.
It's very similar to that, yes. And one thing to note too, that I just wanted to make sure that it's clear. Southern California Edison charges a delivery rate fee, a generation fee, and then there's three other fees that are tied into that we're building into that cost. So there's the LA County UUT that gets built into this rate. There's a state tax that gets built into that rate. So as council member, you had mentioned, it's not just that energy cost, but also what Edison charges on top of that for that UUT and the state tax as well. So that's all included. That's all inclusive as part of that rate.
And what about the discounts or incentives that we get emails from Southern California Edison saying, apply for this, and there's a webinar on how you can provide more efficiency with your EVs. What is that all about? It just seems like they're just charging people all the time. I don't really see I see a lot of talk, let's put it that way, that there's things available. Are there, or are they so difficult to get that it's just not worth the staff time? I mean, I don't know.
I know a portion of it is on the residential side, so there's subsidies for, installing chargers or the actual infrastructure at the residential level. One of the programs that I took a look at, not in terms of, the program through Southern California Edison, the one I took a look at was how to increase infrastructure at a organizational level. But that program has already been exhausted in terms of agencies or other organizations that have applied for that potential funding source. So as far as I can tell right now, the current subsidy type of programs at the commercial level have already been allocated or applied for. So they're not currently in an open application period, from what I've researched.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm just thrilled that we have them in our city, and is that where Joan goes to charge, or do you do it at home?
No, we have one at home.
You have one at home.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have 220 at home.
All right. So
Along
I'm
that,
going to- did
I'm
I
sorry,
already
one
open
real
up
quick,
public
can I
comment
say
on this?
one quick thing?
I did.
Mayor Sternquist, I think
Yes.
Councilmember
Tom,
Chuck.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just to follow up on what Fernando says, I would say that, I don't know, this is a
Just a
guess,
second,
but probably,
Councilman. We
Okay.
can't hear you.
Tom, we
Okay.
can't hear you.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Tom.
Can you hear me?
No.
All right, never mind then, forget it.
I think the house speakers might need to get turned on.
Okay, try now.
Can you hear me now?
Not yet.
I have to unmute myself. Can you hear me?
A little bit. Go ahead.
Never mind, I pass.
Okay.
What did he say?
He's good.
He didn't ever mind.
I think so. All right. So we need a council motion and a roll call.
All right, let me give this a shot. I'll move that we approve the creation of a EV charge station fee and amend the adopted fiscal year 2022-2023 master fees and fines schedule to reflect the new fee by resolution on September 6, 2022,
I thought we were in change.
and determine that the fee start date be October 1st.
Oh, okay.
2022. And also to have staff bring back a proposal for the grace period and fine that we discussed tonight.
We need a second.
Second?
Second.
Oh,
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
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 Thumbs
Said.
up.
Councilmember Viscara?
Yes.
Councilmember Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mann?
Yes.
Mayor Sternquist?
Yes. Okay, so we now have a fee coming on, and you'll take care of all the marketing on that, or, I don't know if marketing is the word, but,
Yeah, I guess.
Okay,
I
so,
trust that we're
yes.
gonna hear back on the actual usage after but we probably wouldn't know until November sometime.
Right, so officially, this will come back via resolution to officially set the fee and set the penalty amount. We'll take a look at what amounts are being used, but this will all come back at your first meeting in September to formally set it by resolution, which is required. Thank you very much for moving us to
But
that
I
step.
think I certainly would like to see what that fee would do to, maybe all of a sudden we said, nobody comes to charge a car anymore, I doubt it, but we'll see.
okay. All right, item 11, update from our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Sternquist. Nothing to report tonight.
Okay. Update from our city attorney.
Thank you. I've missed the last couple, so I wanted to bring something to you. The legislature passed and is waiting for the governor to sign Senate Bill 1100. This doesn't deal with something that's of immediate concern here in Temple City, but it could be, and we've had some interesting days. This gives explicit authority for the presiding member of a body, in our case the mayor, to remove or cause the removal by the deputy of an individual who is disrupting the meeting. Disrupting, for purposes of the statute, means engaging in behavior that actually disrupts, disturbs, impedes, or renders infeasible the orderly conduct of the meeting. That's factual. It also can include a failure to comply with reasonable and lawful regulations adopted by a legislative body, which means for those entities that have rules of order that apply to the people that come to the meetings, breaking those rules, or engaging in behavior that constitutes use of force or a true threat of force, which for those of you who saw the news out of the LA City Council last week, I think we saw a true threat of force. So normally, you would have to warn the individual that they're disrupting and that they might be removed, but if there's a threat of force, they can be removed immediately. It's an interesting law. It's certainly timely, given the different things we're seeing at public meetings. Don't know that it's going to be of immediate impact to us, but it did hit me that in my time with you, I haven't seen whether we have sort of rules of procedure that include members of the public coming. And if that might be something that through the year we might want to look at. Do we need rules of procedure about signs or clapping or chanting during meetings? Again, not something that you deal with in your normal meetings, but I recall, and I know you recall, some meetings where those things did occur. So not so much for the disturbance issue, but just think about whether you might want, any of you might want at some point in the future to go over or look back at the rules of procedure and see if you want to adopt some, which then could be used, again, down the line somewhere, in concert with SB 1100. That's my report for tonight.
Folks that, for example, we have a three-minute speaking limit. They just keep on going, and the mayor said, well, your time's up, and the person just would not yield the floor. Would that constitute?
That actually disrupts and impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting because the person won't stop talking and you can't move on. That would be the point you could ask the deputy to move that person out. Absolutely right.
Greg, how about, for instance, at our last governing board meeting at Foothill Transit, there are two gentlemen that are making the rounds through various cities, and one of them wears a vest that uses the four-letter word on top, and then it says mayor underneath it. And he's basically talking to all the city council members there. And then he comes up, and it's always a balance because of First Amendment rights to allow him free speech. But would that be?
That is not a direct threat.
Wow.
And as long as that gentleman gets up, speaks for his allotted period of time, he can rant and rave for his allotted period of time. But if he's not making a threat, and then he sits down when he's supposed to, he is perfectly within his rights.
Okay.
Kind of fun, huh?
Yes. Thank
That's
you.
my report. Thank you all so much.
Okay. Well, if he comes here, you'll see what I mean.
And his dog.
Yeah, you, Fernando, you were there.
I was there.
You saw. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Item 13, council reports regarding ad hoc or standing committee meetings. Anyone?
No reports.
Nope. Tom? Oh,
Uh,
Tom's gone.
Mayor Sternquist, Councilmember Chavez had to leave the meeting, so
Okay.
he's excused himself for the rest of the meeting.
Okay. Item 14, council items separate from the city manager's regular agenda. Anyone?
No items
William?
from me.
Yes, I do have one
Councilmember-
quick, I do have one
Mayor Pro
quick
Tem?
one. Yeah, earlier today, this afternoon, I had the pleasure of attending the grand opening of the Temple City Early Learning Academy. I'm trying to make sure I get the get the name right. It's the new, I guess it's considered a daycare preschool that is now in the place of what was the Doug Sears Learning Center off of Pentland. So that's the school district's first attempt, and they succeeded at opening essentially a daycare for the age of 3 through TK. Yeah, so we had a quick tour of the facility. Board President Espinoza and Board Member Georgino were there for some remarks. It looks great. Everything's newly renovated. They had, from my count, at least 6, if not more, classrooms
How many
available.
students?
That's a good question. I didn't think to ask that. But they are trying to spread the word and getting people to know that that's available. And as a parent of a 2-year-old, I could definitely say that the demand is out there for parents. So yeah, it's congratulations to the school district.
So it's part of
Yeah.
TCUSD.
It is, yeah, it is. And so I believe Mickey Wong is I want to say principal. I wasn't sure what her official title was, but she basically leads. She led the whole effort. And she was the leader in making that possible, and the whole TCUS team was there to support her. So it was great to see everyone. And yeah, if you get a chance to maybe stop by or tour it, I'm sure they'll be glad to have you.
Thank you, William.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are we now? Sorry, I lost my. Okay. Any additional public comments?
Successor agency.
Oh, successor agency. I'm used to the pink paper.
15.
Yeah. I don't have, oh, here we go. We're going to recess to the successor agency to the Temple City Community Development Agency meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we need a roll call from our city clerk, please.
Thank you. Agency member Chavez is absent. Agency member Vizcarra.
Here.
Agency member Yu.
Here.
Vice Chair Mann.
Here,
Chair Sternquist.
Here?
move to excuse agency member Chavez.
Second.
Okay, any objections? So moved. Item 3, the consent calendar.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any objections? Roll call vote, please.
Agency member Vizcarra.
Yes.
Agency member Yu.
Yes.
Vice Chair Mann.
Yes.
Chair Sternquist.
Yes. Okay,
Mayor, may I just ask one
Yes.
quick question? Just, I know we've been approving the agenda and paying out from the successor agency. I think we're coming towards the end of the successor agency, am I right?
Yes, Councilmember Yu, we will be paying
Agent-
off that
agency
final bit
member,
of
yeah.
debt, I believe in 2025 or 2026. Excuse me, next 2024. Excuse me. So
24.
that will be the last payment you make. At that point, the successor agency will dissolve per the dissolution of redevelopment and the law. So in a couple of years, you won't be doing this anymore, and we will be done.
Thank you.
Do you know what that remaining amount is?
A little under $1 million, plus or minus.
Okay. We pay interest on that?
Yes, we in 2016 or 15, we actually renegotiated our debt. We actually have that as a private placement debt, similar to like if you went and got a loan from a bank. Because at the time, the redevelopment agency didn't have any other assets other than its tax increment that it receives under the dissolution of redevelopment. So we didn't have any other properties, we didn't have any other assets. So that was the only way at the time that the agency and could essentially refinance that. So it was at a very low interest rate at the time. So what will happen after that is once that debt is paid off, you think of it as the property tax pie increases again and gets distributed to the various agencies, school district, state, county, special districts, and us. And just a reminder, we are a low property tax city, so we get about 6 cents on the dollar plus what we get from the landscape and lighting district as well. So all in all, between all of our taxing components, we get about 9 for all city services. Excuse me, we get around 9 cents on the dollar for all that. So once that happens, we'll see a small blip increase in our general fund property taxes.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now we go to
Start the unfinished business.
unfinished business. None. New business, none. Communications, none. Public comments, none. 8, update from executive director and agency council, none. Matters from agency members, none. We are in adjournment from the successor agency. And now we move back to our regular meeting. And are there any additional public comments? None? Okay. Well, I would like to take this opportunity to adjourn our meeting in memory of Ken Gillanders, who many of us... I'm sorry? What did I say? Gillanders. Oh my gosh, Nolenberg. Why was Ken Gillanders on my mind? Oh my goodness. Anyway, excuse me, Ken Nolenberg. Ken was born in Alhambra in 1941. He lived his whole life in Temple City, starting at Longden Elementary, which at that time was part of Pasadena schools, to Oak Junior High, and to Temple City High School. He was in one of the first graduating classes, 1959, wow, of the newly built Temple City High School under Principal Arthur North. Went on to Cal Poly Pomona, graduating with a degree in civil engineering. He worked for the Long Beach Naval Shipyard for over 35 years as a civilian employee, working in the highest echelons of, often flying back to report to the Pentagon, the whole time living in Temple City and caring for his aging mother. Ken never had a family and instead invested in his community, serving on numerous boards of directors, including the Orange County Federal Credit Union and 12 years on the Temple City Board of Education. Ken died earlier this year due to complications from Parkinson's disease. And I can still picture Ken Nolenberg sitting here at many of our council meetings, and he served on the school board with such joy. He really did enjoy that. So we are sorry about Ken Nolenberg's passing, and we are adjourning this meeting in his honor.